When a new virus threatens the sanctity and safety of man, when governments cover up the fact that it is a bioweapon, when the death toll reaches millions and stores are raided for all their commerce, camaraderie, and layers of protection, where do you turn to? I'll tell you where you turn to. Everyday household items and recyclable trash. Bing bow wow. What's up, everybody? It's your Soul Survivor Paladin Westy here with a brand new tutorial on how to make a respirator out of a water jug. And you can use anything, really. Anything that's recyclable. It's not difficult. So let's get into what you're going to need for this. You're going to want scissors. You're going to want, this is rubber foam. You can get this at Home Depot. They use this to insulate doors. Anything that needs insulation. You're going to want a good adhesive, like a really good one. I recommend not using Gorilla Glue for the sole fact that it's really just for wood. But anything that's... You want a strong adhesive as long as it's not like a carcinogenic material in it. You know, you don't want anything that's that you can't get off. I mean, with that, you can get off if you work quick enough. You're going to want a 1-gallon water jug right here. You're going to want duct tape. You're going to want a flathead screwdriver. And from this, you don't necessarily need this lug nut or that part there. I bought this out of stupidity because I was still planning out how to make this. This is a multi-turn angle valve right here. I'm going to make a follow-up video at some point on how to utilize that. But you don't need that per se. What you need is the pipe fastener right here. This is what I use to make the mask. This is what I use to make the filter, more specifically. You can get these at Home Depot or any hardware store, any hardware outlet. And this is the prototype mask I made. And it ties onto the face with string. But we're going to make a new and improved version that's going to utilize Velcro straps. So this is the inside. And this new version is going to look much better. And hoping you can follow along as we get this underway. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so I'm kind of working blind right now. I'm using... Oh my god, this setup is so terrible. I'm using a car phone holder on a windowsill right now to show you this. So if you can't see something, just please let me know. I'm looking at the back of it just so you guys can see. Alright. So what you're going to want to do first is you can mark where to cut along this ring here on this right where it shows you how many liters it is with a permanent marker. You can mark where you want to cut there. Can you fucking... Yeah. Right along here. You want to cut that out. Or you can just use this to help guide you. I'm gonna see it guide me instead. And so what we'll do here, get a small cut. You don't want to start cutting down the rim here, so just get a knife or something and poke a hole there, and you can start cutting with your scissors. Like so. And we're just going to use this rim to help guide us cut. You want to keep the cap intact too. You guys can see. I'm having a difficult time on how to tell if you can see this or not, so I'm gonna readjust. And don't worry about if you have excess plastic on the edges. You can, if you want to, sand that down, but as long as you have this one ring here along this side, you can just trim it down with the scissors. I'll show you how to do that. So let's get this out here. Now we got our filter. This is going to be your filter. And now, when I started designing this, I started to cut out from here. I used this to guide me, and my initial plan was to have this be a valve to the filter, but because this can actually fit to the face. This the handle, it can actually conform to your face if you angle it right. But I decided to scrap that idea. But for the sake of using it for a future video, I'm going to cut this out and show you how I manage that part. So we're just going to cut this. You don't need any of this. We're going to need the bottom of the jug. I'm just cutting this out because it's much easier doing it this way. Make sure you guide it fine and you don't leave any scrap. So like I said, this can be used in a sense as a mask in itself, but that's not what we did. What I did with the prototype mask here that I have worn to work, and it serves as some kind of protection. Any kind of protection against this virus is good protection. Alright, so keep that in mind. So we're gonna, like I said, you can mark across the bottom here, but we're just gonna help use the rivets to help guide us. And we want to take out this whole bottom part of the jug. You want to be careful not to go past the line, and you'll know what kind of line I mean if the jug has these kind of lines. But I'll get a close up here. We want to cut along here, and we don't want to go past that line. Okay. In fact, I would go as far as to say just leave a little bit excess on where you're cutting, just to be safe. Just like, it depends. You'd have to test it out with a couple of jugs, like I did, in order to figure out if it's going to fit to your face or not. So we're cutting along the line. And this is a great filter. Great mask, I would say. I would go far as say it's very useful. And now we have the main apparatus of the mask. And of course you want to make sure your jug is completely empty of water before you start cutting. Don't be so hastily as me. So now we have the bottom of the jug. And what we want to do is we can use a marker to help guide along the cut here. And we're going to go straight across the middle and cut this in half. But I'm just going to help. I'm going to help be one with the plastic and help it guide me. So here we go. And the only issue you're going to run into is the very thickest part of the plastic here. It is kind of a pain to cut. But where there's a will, there is a way. But you want to make sure it's completely symmetrical too. That's why it does help to measure this kind of thing. But if this is for when you're out of options completely, and you need some kind of protection to help, and you're in the city, and, you know, you got to deal with that kind of nightmare. I get it. That's why I thought of this. And I don't know if anyone else has thought of this. I take credit for the design, not the idea per se. So we're going to cut along here until it's completely symmetrical, and when we get to the thickest part of the plastic here, we want to be careful. See, I kind of already screwed up the cut. It's not really center, but it'll suffice. But normally you want to make sure you make it completely symmetrical. Make sure we cut this. Yeah, this part's a real pain in the ass. So I take my scissors. I make sure I get it pushed down completely to the bottom, and that there's enough room. And cut as hard as I can, and there we go. So now you have your two mask halves. So what we want to do is we're going to fit both of them together into one piece, and you're going to want to glue this or duct tape it. I used duct tape the first time around, and it worked fine. But typically, you want to get the biggest part at the bottom and the smallest on top, and test it out to see if it conforms to your face. So that should be a good fit. Seems that it'll do the job fine. Test it out with the other one. Actually, it is a bit longer than my prototype. So once you have that, you want to take your glue and go along the inside here so we can glue this up. This is going to be a bit of a pain because this glue hardens very fast, and it's hard to get it out the first time around. So with Gorilla Glue, you gotta use like all your strength to get it out. So we just wait, let it unharden. Is this still rolling? Let me check. Yes, it is. I got to check because my phone is always full in storage. And it'll just abruptly stop whatever I'm recording. It's a real pain. I gotta get a real camera. Oh, Jesus. Alright, let me make a cut here so I can get this thing out. Alright, I'm gonna make a cut there because I forgot to add a crucial step. Since with my prototype I didn't think of this, I'm gonna think of it now to improve this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our coffee filters. You can take 2 or 3 at a time. It's completely up to you of how many layers you want. And stuff them in the bigger piece. And we're going to cut along to where it fits. And that nothing's hanging out. So we'll just use this to measure. And make sure you have it in there. And just be careful not to cut the plastic anymore. But it's completely up to you if you want to let it hang out or not. I'm not too worried about it. So I'm just going to add 2 filters for my protection. Make sure you can still see. Was I on the other side this whole time? Oh, jeez. Anyway, we get our glue out. And we're going to go inside the mask here, on the whole inside. We're not going to completely coat it. You know what? We should probably cut along the lines a little bit more so it doesn't slip and the glue actually adheres. Do some trimming. It's completely up to you. This is an unnecessary step. This is just for added protection. You really don't need to put the coffee filters in the mask itself. The initial plan was, when designing this, I put them on the inside of the cap here, which acts as the actual filter, and we're going to get to that. But I'm going to start gluing straight across the bottom in a line. Let's get that glue out of there. Straight across. Okay. You want to go on this side. You got to make sure you actually glue the mask too so it can stick. If it doesn't stick the first time around, I'm just going to use duct tape anyway, because that's what I used the first time. But we'll go on the outside edges here. This will be much easier. Just go along the whole mask here on the inside. So I haven't, if you couldn't already tell, I haven't done it before with the filters inside the mask. That's why I'm kind of improvising. Oh my god. Next I'll give you a tutorial on how to use glue. This is the alpha way to use glue. Is to just spread it on with throwing no caution to the wind. Okay. Whatever. And we're going to press this down here till we get a nice seal. And if you want, you can curl these filters up into the mask. But initially, you just want to make sure it sticks. In fact, you know what? I'm just gonna cut this off here. Okay, got that underway. Make sure it looks good from the outside too. By all means, guys, if you don't think you added enough, add more. But that should be good. So what we're going to want to do is let that harden for 20 to 30 minutes, or at least until it's hard. And if it's not, if it starts to come loose, you know, the old duct tape around, it should suffice. So let's move on to the filter, the actual filter now. Okay, we are still a go. So now what you're gonna want to do is, I took apart a pen and used the point to poke holes in the top of the cap here. But you can use anything as long as the holes are sizable enough to block some kind of particulate matter. I mean, of course, the smaller they are, the better, because you're blocking out the most microscopic stuff that can get in there. It's up to you, but for this sake, I just use a pen, and you can go along, start poking holes. I'm going to go all the way around until I make a circle on the outer edge here. Not really worried about spacing, to be honest, but let's make 8 for each side, top and bottom. 2, 3, 4. We're going to go make a smaller circle on the inside. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's your basic filter design. You can make as many holes as you want. Once you get that underway, test it out on your mask to see if it would fit. If it's not completely flat, like I said in the beginning, cut this completely until you have this rung here, so it's flat. Okay, just gonna make minor adjustments to make sure this will be able to be flat. Wow. Alright, what I'm gonna do is just sand a bit of it. Please don't breathe in plastic particles, just to make sure we get a good fit on there. And make sure you shake out all the plastic too. I use water to soak out the particles, because you do not want that in your filter. We know this. It's very, very likely to cause cancer, cause birth defects. So, just get the plastic out as best as you can. You want to put the cap back on, and you can still use coffee filters for the filter itself, but what I want to use instead, since I put coffee filters in the mask, is paper towels, because those are a good particulate catcher. I think I'm going to link it below in the description, the actual study they did. But they concluded that the best kind of protection against this virus is like things like pillowcases, paper towels, cotton shirts. So what we'll do with these is sure I'm still rolling. Okay. So we got our paper towel cut out. I want to put that in the cap here. And if you want, I'm going to do that. Poke holes in the paper towels, as many as you want, but don't poke through the plastic. I might take it out to do that. And this is where you want your screwdriver. And this is going to be for the pipe fasteners. I'm going to take the one off my original mask, and I'll just put it on the new one, since I don't have any. And this is an added layer of protection. This will make a seal on the edge. It's not really needed, I know that, but it is a good layer of protection. So we're going to completely tighten that up until you get a lot of resistance. And that is your filter. Now with these, you can add as many paper towels, many coffee filters as you want. You just unscrew this, take the cap off, change it out if you feel it needs to be changed out. Now moving back to the mask here, what I did before, and I'm going to do it again until I make another update video, is we're going to cut some reasonable sized holes into the mask itself, where the mouth part would go. You just want to be careful in doing it. So, I think we got one layer. I'm just going to use the knife instead. That's what I used before. We're going to make 4 sizable holes here. All the way through. You just want to watch your hands when you're doing it. Straight in the middle too. This is going to mark where the actual filter is going to go on. Make sure you don't bend it. With your finger, Westy, don't stab yourself. Yeah, I would say do this step ahead of time. Don't do it as you're gluing it on. And that's where make sure the filters go. The filter goes onto. So, yep, it lines up. It's able to fit on there where all the 4 holes are. And we're going to take our rubber foam sure we're still recording. Okay. Now this rubber foam has an adhesive side, so you're going to want to measure up. So we're going to have one side this length and measure the same side. So right where my thumb is. I'm going to cut that. But we're also going to cut this rubber foam in half and do the same thing once we get another layer rolled out. Or Alternatively, you can just use the non-adhesive side and use duct tape and just duct tape it on the other side. But for the sake of this, for the sake of it looking stable, we're not going to have any duct tape on the mask itself. And we're just going to use the rubber foam adhesive to fit the mask itself onto your face. So come along here. So now we want to curve it as much as it needs to be. This could be some quality time with your family too. If you wanted to, you guys can just spend the time making these masks. Totally up to you while you're quarantined. A little bit short on the nose part. Let's see. Yeah, it would still work. It would still work. So then, this is going to be an improvement on what I did before, because the filter on my last mask did not completely reach. Sure, I really want to make sure all the plastic crap's out of this. I'm going to make sure the plastic actually reaches the mask. And we're going to go along the end of the filter here. We're going to do the same thing, except it's going to provide a seal. Besides putting the glue on, it's going to provide a seal to where it won't fall off. But you want to make sure you don't have too much of this rubber foam suspending the filter itself. I'll show you what I mean by this. Okay. So we want to go along here and just make sure the two ends touch. If the two ends don't touch, it's not long enough. Alrighty. So once you got your filter, once you got the insulator side on your filter, I cut it in half and just fit it around the whole thing. I put more holes in the inside of the mask that you can breathe through, because your mouth's going to go here and your nose goes up top here. And the reason you put the rubber foam on the outside here, and you know what, I am going to duct tape it. In fact, the mask is a bit too long. I would say you're very safe cutting where this line is right here. That's going to make a better curvature for your face. But this is for, you know, if you wanted extra room or if you have a bigger face. Like I said, everyone's different. Just try it out and tweak it to your standards. So like I said, the rubber foam here is going to make a seal, a better seal than the duct tape is. So I'm going to add a layer on the bottom, and then we're going to glue this onto the mouth part. So let's get that underway here. Just use a non-toxic glue. Gorilla Glue isn't toxic, at least not to breathe. And there will be many more iterations of this to come. So let us start gluing the filter onto the mask itself. We're going to make a nice circle. We're going to make sure this seals onto the mask and make sure no glue gets into the holes here. And even if it does, the worst it would do is just go through one layer. It wouldn't go through all the holes. So, we're going to put something heavy on top of that and let it dry. Once your applicator's on, give it time to dry. Ideally, a better design, I think. A little too late now that I showed you the process of how I made the first one. But is to cut a hole straight in the middle of the mask, pull the filter through, and seal that up with glue, and then put the rubber foam seal on top of that. I think that would be a better design. But this is, first time around. I'll make a follow-up video surely. But just put some weight on the inside of the mask so your bond for the filter stays on. Give it time to dry, and you can use either string to fasten it. I didn't have any Velcro strips like I said at the beginning, but ideally you would cut some holes on the side here, pull the Velcro through it, fit it onto your head. That's in an ideal world I would have done that and showed on camera, but I'm going to show instead the string method. So this is the finished mask. You can use the string as tied in front. You can use this method. Preferably you want to cut some holes on the side here and just run some Velcro straps through that, adjust it to your head, and make sure you have a good seal on it. Because surprisingly, this can seal to your face. It can morph to your face. So, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video when I update and make a better design. So, take care.